Hey everybody, welcome back to another Scratch tutorial. This is the final one to end it all, and we're going to be taking a look at enhancing the movement of our rocket ship. Now this one's going to be a little more tricky to do, so try your best to follow along as I do my best to explain it. So the first thing we're going to do is, we really want our rocket ship to have better fluid movement. This is not ideal for this type of game. It doesn't work very well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to duplicate my rocket ship for now, and I'm going to hide, well, let's see here, my original rocket ship. I'm going to change this value. So you can do this too. Click on your original rocket ship. Actually, I'm just going to delete this one. My original rocket ship. I'm going to change this left arrow to A, this right arrow to D for the time being, just so that it doesn't get in the way. Then I'm going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to hide the original. I'm going to move this new one that I've created, Rocket Ship 2. And I'm going to change the values to left arrow and right arrow. Actually, this won't even matter. So on our Rocket Ship 2, I'm going to delete these options here. We're going to just get rid of them. I'm going to move this up here and move this off to the side. What we're going to do is go to data. We're going to make a couple of variables, or actually, yeah, just two of them. This one's going to be called, and it's only for this sprite, we're going to call it x velocity, and this applies to the speed on the x-axis. Okay. Then we're going to make another variable called max speed, and this is only going to apply for this sprite only, and this is the max speed that we want our character to go. Now that what we're going to do is we're going to use a forever loop with an if statement. We're going to go to the if statement first. Now I'm going to use the sensing option, and actually I need to do an operator. I need to do an AND, which is this one here. If something and something, then something will happen. I know we're going to be using the sensing option to control the keyboard. So if, oops, I knocked that out of place. If the left arrow is pressed, we want to do something here. We want to have an absolute value operator. So let's see. ABS. We're going to take this. I'm going to drag it out here. Well, I actually need another operator here, a less than sign. It's already getting very complex. So let me do that again. So I have my if statement. I took an AND operator, something and something, and then I need to take this absolute value function here, but I need to put this less than operator, and then the absolute value goes in here. And this hopefully will somewhat make sense. If I press the left arrow key, I want the velocity, go back to my data, the x velocity to be less than the max speed. I never want my velocity to go above the max speed. So if the left arrow is pressed and the absolute value is less than the max speed, then I'm going to put change my x velocity by 2. Okay. I'm going to duplicate this. No, not that. And duplicate this whole thing. And we're going to do this for the right arrow as well. Okay. And we don't have to change anything else other than, actually this has to be a -2 since we're going in the left to the left, and this one's going to the right. So make that adjustment. This should be a -2. This should be a +2. Now since that x velocity has a certain speed now, we're going to set the x velocity, and we need an operator here, a multiplication. And we're going to set that the x velocity needs to be equal to the x velocity times, that little asterisk means times, 0.9. So you're never actually getting the complete velocity. And after that, we're going to set the motion, change the x value to the current x velocity. Once we have all that, we need to take a forever loop. We need to put all of this in that forever loop. So we've got that set up. Now, before we continue, we got to set up a starting point. When we click this, we need to set two things. We need to set the x velocity to 0 and the max speed to something like 20. Okay. Then bring our forever loop together. Okay, if we did this correctly, here's what it's telling us. When we click this, at the very beginning, our velocity is 0. And the max speed that the rocket ship can go is a 20. If I press the left arrow key on the keyboard, and I'm going to cut the music here in my script. I'm going to get rid of that background music for now. Okay. If I press the left arrow key and my absolute value is less than the max speed, I'll go at a velocity of -2. If I press the right, -2 just means left direction, and the same for the right arrow. Now the absolute value takes a negative number and takes the actual whole value of it, so -2 is really just a 2. Now with that said, after the movement has happened, it's going to set my x velocity to the x velocity times 0.9. What that means is, over time, my velocity is shrinking, or it's decreasing in speed. And I'll illustrate it here. And I'm going to hide my original rocket ship, hide. And as you can see, as I'm going left and right, it kind of drags and slides left to right. You know, it's kind of hard to explain the math behind it, but you know, if you can follow along with the concept here. Whoops, I died there. It's just think of it this way, that the velocity over time is actually shrinking to 0. Okay, and because of that, we get a much smoother motion with our design. So this is my attempt here. This thing here represents the velocity over time. Okay, let me get the brush, change it to black. Our velocity is very fast when it starts, but over time what'll happen is it'll decrease till it stops at 0. That's because we're taking our current velocity v, and it's equal to v times 0.9, and this is being applied over a certain time period, which is really just a fraction of a second. And I know it seems confusing, but that's what's going on. So as I press the left or right arrow key, the object slows down very quickly. Alright, so if you don't get it, it's okay. Don't worry about it too much. But if you do get it, it will help you develop your games and add a little more realism to it. So now if I move left and right, and I gotta hide this rocket ship because I don't need it, I can actually move a lot better in the game, and it keeps me alive a lot longer. And but with that said, it's also caused some other problems. Now the beam that I had originally, I need to fix it back to rocket ship 2. Okay, and let me hide the original rocket ship. We should be good. There we go. Oh man. Wait for it. There you go. That is the rocket ship game. You now know how to add more realistic movement to it. This is a bit difficult to understand, but if you get it, it'll help you out with a lot of your programming for your future games. But that's it. That is the Invader tutorial. You know how to add extra levels. You know how to create your characters. So now at this point, you should proceed on working on the project.